Hey everybody, this is Mo, the Gnostic Warrior, founder of the Order of the Gnostics, on this another walk and talk today. Oh, let me add that I'm the founder of Mold Safe Solutions. I do these live videos, these walks and these talks. I just like the live part of it. And I also, post these videos later too for people to watch as well. I just like doing the live one. In today's talk, I'm going to talk about some science that's coming out in regards to semen and how it contains multiple viruses, bacteria, and fungi, and how this relates to unclean sex, and then also the Vestal Virgins with the Pontifex Maximus. I'm going to kind of tie this all together in this walk and this talk today. So I want to point you guys to an article, and I'm going to share it with you guys later. I'm actually writing an article, a big article on this right now, and I have a lot of research on this. And it's interesting because the people that are putting it, and they're very alarmed by this. Okay. I talk about this in other articles that I've put out there, the occult forces of sex, and then also in other videos that I've done. And I talk about this, of course, this ancient belief. Hey, doggy. So, this ancient belief from various ancient cultures throughout history that, thank you for tuning in, everybody, and joining the conversation. And this ancient belief by various cultures throughout time that had talked about, unsafe sex, unclean sex, where it was forbidden for people, to have premarital sex, to have out of wedlock sex, to have homosexual sex, etc. And there was severe consequences to violate these laws. And many different cultures have these laws, and they still have them to today. Here in the West, and especially here in the United States of America, it's more a libertine society. It's what we could say liberal. We're not a conservative, Christian type conservative religious society. We're a secular society. So it's more of open sex, free sex. So the thought of viruses, and fungi and parasites being transmitted sexually, it's not really talked about. It's usually the standard sexually transmitted diseases, right? The herpes, the HIV, gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, those types of, standard sexually transmitted diseases. But they're not talking about these other viruses, these fungi, these parasitic fungi that I'm talking about. And I talk about in my other videos that I believe that we're transmitting these parasites, various parasites in our semen, and especially the fungi, okay? But if you look at the CDC article, again, Google it, I believe semen may contain up to 27 viruses. So you could Google that right now as you're watching me, and if some of you could put a link in the description, that would be cool, or share it in the comment section with the other people that are watching. I appreciate you guys. And look at this article, okay? And it talks about the Zika virus, kind of the same old, viruses and different threats that they're putting out there in the media, right? So we got the Zika, the Rika, the whatever viruses, but they're not really talking about the parasitic fungi, which I believe is the biggest threat to humankind right now. Okay, so now science, the CDC, and this is important, guys, in the grand scheme of things, and I got some conspiracy stuff for you as well that I want to share with you, that it relates to our modern times right now, and I feel what may happen here in the near future. So I wanted to, this article reminds me of some of the research that I've been doing on sexual relations and so forth. And, with some of you I shared before that, You know, I used to live a more liberal type of sex life. One that today I'm definitely not proud of in any way, but that something that is part of me and part of my past. And it was basically that I could do what I wanted, you know, the typical male type of attitude in regards to women. It was just kind of like conquer them, you know, that kind of attitude. I was gonna, you know, win this woman over and have sex with her, and that was my main purpose. And what I realized when I was doing it, and I didn't do it a lot, but I did it enough, is that I didn't enjoy it. It was like I was living outside of myself. It was as if I was a different person than the person that I was being. And I was just so disgusted and unhappy with my sexual behaviors, with me cheating on people that I loved. And it took me a long time to finally get that in order to be happy and to have a healthy relationship, I couldn't be liberal and libertine with my attitude and free sex and etc. That I really wanted to be monogamous. I wanted to be, because that's what I wanted. I didn't want my mate to do that to me. And in any event, that whole lifestyle, when I was living it, it was almost like my hell years. It was like I was a little demon, a little devil, right? I didn't do crazy things, but I did things that I wasn't proud of today, but that are part of me. But a lot of it dealt with sex. And this is interesting. If you go back through time, sex plays a very important and role in many of our cultures and many of our ancient tribes. I don't know what that guy said. Of course, they gotta yell. They can't talk to me, right? So in any event, thank you for watching, guys, and thumbing up, and gals. And this all relates to, again, the research that I'm doing right now in relation to the parasitic fungi, which I believe, again, is the biggest threat to humankind. And I believe that we're transmitting this parasitic fungi, as the CD says that it's a viruses, are actually the fungi through our semen. And those, of course, create the incubi and the succubi and the shadow people and all different types of creatures, if you want to get into the kind of the Gnostic theology of it, or the mythology of the stuff and the ancient beliefs and the spirits and the stuff that I believe, of course, are the parasitic fungi. So how does the CDC article relate to what I'm talking about? It relates to that we're communicating and we're transmitting, they say viruses, I say parasitic fungi, through our semen and through our bodies and through various other ways, more than we could ever imagine. And the consequences, I believe, can be deadly to a lot of people, and it's making people go mad. So it's just interesting that you can have sex with someone and that you can pass this viruses or these parasites to one another. So keep that in mind. You know, whatever you're doing, whatever your path is, that's your path, that's your choice. But remember, you're playing with parasites here, okay? You're playing with viruses. They say Zika, I say, okay, you probably are, but you're also playing with parasitic fungi, which I believe play a major role in all the diseases. For example, did you guys know that most people who have AIDS, HIV, they don't die from AIDS or HIV. They actually die from parasitic fungi, okay? So that's another interesting fact that not a lot of people know, is that the people that are dying that you see or have died in the past die from fungus, from mold infections, right? That they catch somehow from weakened immune systems. Okay, so interesting fact. And you'll find that this is a fact that fungi finishes off most everybody. Diabetics, I believe Alzheimer's patients. You know, I had told about a study in my other videos that they did autopsies on the brains of Alzheimer's patients, and they found parasitic fungi in 100% of their brains. So, I mean, what's that tell you guys? That's like the smoking gun. But they're like, hey, we need to do a little bit more research. You know, it's really interesting, but, you know, that's, to me, it's foolish. To me, it's the smoking gun. It's the evidence that is there. And so, understand that these ancient beliefs that these cultures had, and even the religions that they have that we seem to think are barbaric, they might have some validity, guys. Yeah, so you know that a lot of religions in the past and even today, I mean, the punishment for premarital sex, for out of wedlock, for homosexualism is death. Okay, and this is something I'm going to get into a little bit here right now. And this was practiced for many years. It's practiced now, right, in Islam, and then in other cultures as well. And the Christians used to do it. The pagans used to do it. There's no culture that I have not studied where that this wasn't practiced at one time. So just keep that in mind. You could research this through history, is that the punishment for adultery, for premarital sex, for homosexual sex, you know, all that type of stuff was death, and it was usually stoning. Okay, so I want to get into an interesting story with you guys in regards to the Vestal Virgins, right? How does this tie into the Vestal Virgins? Well, what a lot of people don't know is the Vestal Virgins were some of the most prized and important people in the Roman religion, and in fact, all of Rome. These Vestal Virgins reported directly to who we know today as the Pope, but who they knew in Latin back then as the Pontifex Maximus. Okay, so it's an interesting kind of story. And the religion that we have today, as far as Catholicism, it is not really the religion that we used to have back then. And remember, back then, it wasn't officially Catholicism yet. You know, for example, when Augustus Caesar, who I tell you guys is the first pope of this age, he started this age, right? So he was the first Pontifex Maximus, but at that time, they weren't Catholic per se. They were more Gnostic, if we want to be real here, okay? And I had mentioned before that the Romans, in the Gnostic theology, as far as history goes, they were called the Sethians, right? They were the sons of Seth, right? The sons of Seth were the Chitium. They were known as the Romans, okay? So keep that in mind as we go along, and I tell these walk in these talks, and I always bring up Rome or Augustus. And remember, the Sethians were the winning faction, right? With Augustus, the head Gnostic, the head high priest of this new empire, this new Roman Empire that he pretty much took over from who we know today as the Jews, but back then were the Egyptians, the Greco-Egyptians, the Hellenes, right? So keep that in mind, okay, guys, that of course you had the Judeans that were on Crete, and this was the big religious center on the holy island of Crete. You had Crete, you had the priesthood of the Cretes. The Cretes are actually where we get the Roman Curia. Okay, they were the lawmakers and the lawgivers. They were the Gnostics on Crete, on Knossos. And some of these defected over to Rome with Augustus. And just so you guys know, Crete was one time the center of Rome. And they had built a city there called Caesarea. And where they made their Bibles was called Biblios. And this was all on Crete. So this is an interesting story. It all ties into all of the stories that I'm talking about now. So in regards to the Vestal Virgins and the Pontifex Maximus, they used to be in charge of the festivals of the lemurs. So if you watched my video yesterday, or you caught my article that I've written on GnosticWarrior.com, I talk about the lemurs, the ancient Roman larva spirits, parasitic larva spirits. where the word lemur is another interchangeable word for larva. And they were essentially spirits of their departed ancestors, and the lemurs happened to be the bad spirits. So there was a festival called the Lemurlia, and this was the festival of the lemurs, and it was the Vestal Virgins and the Pontifex Maximus who held the biggest role. And this was one of the most important rites of the Roman religion. And today, I believe we see some of that in the month of May, where of course the most important person for that month of May is, guess who? The Virgin Mary, right? So keep this in mind as I tell the story of these spirits and so forth, and how it kind of ties into this. So the Vestal Virgins were basically in charge of the festival of Lemurs, and it happened in May, right about 9th, 10th, or 13th. Some historians say it was about a 13-day festival, and some say it was the whole month. I'm not sure exactly how long it lasted, but these rites were some of the most sacred, the most secret in all of Rome, and they were actually imported from Greece and Crete, Egypt, into Rome, and they were some of the most sacred and the most secret of that time. And it was the priesthood of the Caretes that were also known as the Telchnines. They became the Flamen Dialis, right? The different names that they've had over time. They were the main priests to the Pontifex Maximus. So the one prior to Augustus was Julius. So you guys know, right? So we're in the year 2017. Julius Caesar was the first Pontifex Maximus of this college, of these people. And it was at that time where he got killed, and his son, who was Augustus Caesar, ended up taking over the role of Pontifex Maximus, and he started the age that we're in now, 2017, guys. Just so you know of that history, it's interesting, and we should know this, right? We should be somewhat proud and have gnosis and knowledge of this history of where we come from. You know, and all of our religions spawn from this time. As far as the Abrahamic religions go, they spawn from these ancient religions that go back to Greco-Egypt, Crete, and into Rome. And a lot of these mysteries, these different mysteries, we can call them pagan, we can call them Gnostic, whatever you want to say, they were eventually incorporated into the Catholic Church. And again, Catholic means universal. So just keep that in mind, and keep in mind that the Vestal Virgins, they were very important part of the religion up and actually till about the year, I think it was 1536 or something. So all you ladies out there who get a little upset about women not being involved in religion and different things like that, remember they were part of the religions up until a pope, I forget what pope it is, made a papal bull and basically changed everything. And the Pontifex Maximus and these different priests, they were in charge of the gods and the different rites and the rituals to make sure that they didn't get corrupted. And again, that changed in the year 36. So what we see now isn't exactly what it used to be and what they had practiced back then. So remember, the Vestal Virgins, they were some of the most prized. And just so you guys know, the punishment for a Vestal Virgin, if they were to have sex, right? If they were to step out and take on a man and betroth and sleep with a man, the punishment was death. And it was a horrific death, guys. And this was a public death, okay? Because this was one of the most sacred offices in all of Rome. All right, so these people these women that became Vestal Virgins, they had to have basically a spotless history. They couldn't be slaves. They had to come from an aristocrat family with no slavery in their family, no criminals, stuff like that. So I'm not going to go all the way down here because they got some machines going. So the Pontifex Maximus actually played a role in this death, okay, with the priesthood. And it was done in all of Rome. They all knew what would happen. And what eventually happened, it evolved the death over time. And I just want to share with you how serious this was. And they did it, in my belief, as a message to the people, to their plebs at that time, who we could just call their slaves, their subjects, to send a message how serious this was. And so they would lead the women, if she did violate this and they found her guilty of having sex, this Vestal Virgin, they would lead her to a tomb, essentially. And she would have a little light in there, a little candle, like barely a little food, maybe for, like, you know, just like a snack. And then they would bury her in the tomb. And she would be buried alive, guys. And then she would have no rites or rituals or anything, and that tomb would basically be covered over forever. And she would be basically erased from history. So I just want you guys to understand that's how serious this stuff used to be, and where some of the cultures today get some of these rites where they punish people by death, and why it's so serious in other countries. And I believe a lot of it deals with what the science is coming out now. Okay, that these priests, right, these men of knowledge, sometimes these powerful people, they had studied sex and they had studied what happened, and they learned about these lemurs, these viruses that the CDC is saying is in semen, and they knew what could happen with the transfer of these spiritists, that they called them lemurs, and different things. And that's why, you know, the month of May is kind of the rite of sexual purity, etc. There's a lot of different things that deal with that. The maypole on May 5th. So there's a lot of things that deal with sexual rites. They used to believe that getting married during the month of May was an omen. It was bad luck. You know, a lot of people don't know that. So I don't know exactly the science or the theory behind why that was. But remember that it was during this time that they celebrated the rites of Lemuria, okay? The spirits. And that the Pope, right, starting with Julius Caesar, one of the most important men of the Roman Empire, then going down to his son, Augustus, who some say is his stepson, right? Which I don't believe. He became the Messiah for the 6th age, codename Jesus in the Bible. Because Jesus means Messiah. So that's who I believe is Jesus of this 6th age. And what did he say? He came not to bring peace, he came to bring a sword. All right, so in any event, I want to go back to my line of thinking here. I'm taking a little walk, and then I'm actually going to go work out. I have a day off today. So again, thank you for tuning in, thumbing up. Please share my video if you can. Enjoy your discussion with one another. And just understand that, you know, it's up to you guys what you want to do with your bodies and your semen, right? But as far as I'm concerned, I'm choosing to share that just with my soulmate, my wife. I don't have any unclean sex anymore. What can be considered out of wedlock sex or anything like that. I don't believe people should, but you can do what you want to do. It's not my choice. Your path is your path. So if you want to have sex and possibly transmit these fungi, these parasites, these viruses, then you're going to run the risk of catching, I believe, illnesses and diseases, and their DNA you are transferring too. So I've talked about that in other videos where I talk about the science that every time you have sex with someone, you're transferring your DNA to one another. And in women, that basically gets caught up in your vagina, right? Or a woman's vagina. And then they are said to hold that DNA forever. So what science is finding out, and you could read this, there's articles and research on this, is that every woman that has had a male partner, they're finding that male partner's DNA in that woman, fragments of each partner. And they're even going so much to say that the children that woman has is essentially like a chimera. Okay, so this is crazy research, guys. So they're actually saying now that when you have sex, or a woman, your wife or whoever, with multiple partners, when she does eventually have a son or a daughter, that daughter or that son is actually going to have DNA of each of those partners. So that's some rabbit holes you guys could go down if you choose to, but there's science. Sorry, I'm getting a little out of breath. I take long walks when I do these. See, I'm going up this huge hill here. One of the reasons I do this is to exercise, because I'm researching a lot. I'm sitting on my butt. I like to walk and talk. I could get a flow going. Where I live has a lot of hills. I wish actually it didn't have as many hills sometimes, because I don't always want to walk up and down hills, but every street around me has hills, guys. So I'm stuck, and then I wouldn't be as out of breath when I'm talking. So what happens, of course, I'm walking up these big ass hills as I'm talking, and I'm not catching my breath. And so just bear with me sometimes, guys. So I apologize for that. But I've lost some weight. It's good. I feel better. I get outside. I wear sunglasses just because it's just easier to focus for me for some reason with the sunglasses on. And I don't wear them a lot as well, just so you guys know. I do them when the videos I'm doing them for some reason. So anyways, watch my video on the lemurs, guys. So those were considered the spirits that were part of the festival of Lemuria. That was a huge part of the Roman religion. So it's real interesting when you get into these different things. And remember, these spirits were said to haunt houses, to torment their victims, to cause disease, right? And this was one of the most important festivals and feasts, and they would sacrifice as well. And that's interesting too, if you start researching Pontifex Maximus, right? So the Catholic Church has had a huge part in the world that we see today, right? Pretty much most of it here in the West, the Catholic Church had their hands in something. Here, I'm in San Diego, guys, in Southern California, and there's like streets that are dedicated to the mission of the Jesuits, right? We got mission, actually, you go about a half mile right down here, down the road, and there's what's called mission. And that mission goes straight to a Jesuit mission that helped in the evangelizing the Native Americans that were here, the Indians that, of course, they don't like to be called. They like to be called Native Americans. In any event, it was here that the Jesuits had created pretty much this land, and we have San Diego, right? So just remember that as far as the Masonic States of America goes, we could put Masonic / Jesuit States of America if we want to. If you want to look at the history of this country, most of the colleges that first started here were called, were Jesuit founded by Jesuits, you know, Catholics. If we look at Washington, I don't know if you guys knew that once Washington was called Rome, right? So remember that this is our heritage, guys. So I'm kind of laying it on the line as I'm talking about, you know, the history of our heritage and where we come from. You could see the Roman symbols all in Washington, right? In the Senate. Okay, never forget that, right? Signs and symbols rule the world, not words or laws, but of course we got the rule of law right now. So let's talk about these unclean spirits, these lemurs, okay? Remember I had talked about in my last video about the lemurs, and I have the article on GnosticWarrior.com that these were spirits that caused disease in haunted houses, and I relate these to what we know in science that are everywhere and that are haunting houses, right? That are terrorizing people, that are causing disease, right? Really causing disease, and they're actually verifying this. And they actually eat you from the inside out, and they can get into your brain, and they're finding it in Alzheimer's patients, and they're finding it with people with Crohn's and with cancer and people that have HIV. They're dying from these things. Okay, guys, start wrapping your mind around what Mo's trying to tell you when I relate all these ancient stories of the lemurs and the spirits and the unclean spirits and stuff that I'm not thinking along that lines. I'm just relating these stories and tying it in to the modern science, and understand how serious that it was, and all the religions had dealt with this, and all the ancient teachings had dealt with this, right? We've been living in the land of Nod. We've forgotten all this stuff, right? So it's important that I feel we tie to our ancestors' teachings. Some people, they want to disregard them. I think it's foolish, because without our ancestors, we wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't even have the science that we have today. We wouldn't even have anything if it wasn't for them and what they've been through. So I feel it's important that we tell their stories and we kind of relate them to now. And it's kind of cool when you do that, and you kind of find the different connections with it. And we could actually verify some of this stuff. So some of these mythologies, some of this history, these lemurs, right? These unclean spirits, the Christians call them. What Mo today calls parasitic fungi, molds in English, right? Fungi is the Latin word, molds is the English word. These are parasites, and they're deadly. And they haunt houses. I go to houses every day. I tell you guys that I'm in the water damage industry, in the mold industry, right? I walk the talk. I don't just, talk out the side of my neck about things I don't understand. My son got sick from these lemurs, from these parasitic fungi, these molds. I got sick. It's not cold season right now, it's mold season. Just remember that, guys. Remember that these things are serious, and that these festivals and these rites, they were serious. And I believe we lost touch with that reality and with our religious ways, and before they had meaning, and we lost the meaning. So now it's just almost like emptiness, when they practice these religious rites, because people don't understand what they're doing or what they're for. So there's no intention there, there's no will behind it. It's all just done for show. And if we're to start curing this world and take it back from the lemurs that are basically destroying everything and everybody, that's what I believe when they talk about people being destroyed, by Satan, as far as in Christianity. It's being destroyed by these parasites. It's what came, Satan inflicted Job with the plague. The plague is it's the mold, it's the fungus. That's why Moses and Aaron were mold inspectors, right? That's why it's in the Bible, the Old Testament. And they have, in Leviticus, they talk about the mildew and the mold, and they have special instructions on how to get rid of it. I mean, it was that serious. So serious, Moses. Sorry, I got a little disconnected there. So remember that, guys, that it's very serious. And it could be affecting you or a loved one or anybody. If you're sick and you don't know why, or someone you know is sick, start looking around their home for these lemurs, for these fungi. And this is a fascinating festival that they used to have. And I mentioned in the last video walk and talk that I did, I talk about how they used to basically use salt, the Vestal Virgins, in a specific type of wheat. I forget what the wheat was. So my belief is that it had a special significance to do with the harvest, the spring harvest, or the spring planting as well. I didn't get too much in that research. And then also fire and salt played a big part of that. And I talk about one of the first antifungals was fire. Okay, it was after we invented fire, we started living. It wasn't just the warmth, it was we were able to kill the parasites on our food. We were able to kill these parasites, these viruses, these parasitic fungi, these lemurs. This was one of the major things, and we honored fire, and that's why fire played a big part in religion back then, because fire is what destroyed these parasites. It's what we use now today to cook our meat, right? So if you eat meat, you eat vegetables, and they knew even back then that it was important to clean and cook their vegetables as well, to kill some of these spiritists, some of these lemurs, etc. So fire played the biggest role. That was the first anti-parasite, anti-spiritist And then also the charcoal, I mentioned that. Charcoal is why at Lent, charcoal, you get charcoal on your forehead if you're a Catholic, right? This is done around the same time as well, okay? And you get the rites of aspergy. I talk about that in my other videos about the Catholic priest and the Pope, and they have the aspergillum, right? The aspergillum is named after aspergillus. Aspergillus is one of the most dangerous parasitic fungi molds around. I'm finding it in every house that I go to. It was in my house when my son got sick. I actually know that it's in my son because he got tested. So aspergillus, when the priest is doing the holy water, guys, that's the aspergillum, okay? That little priest, that tool, okay, that is known as the aspergillum, and it's named after aspergillus, okay? So just remember that. I'm gonna get going over here, see if I can get a better connection. So sorry about that, guys. I'm in a hilly area, and sometimes I get a bad connection. So it's interesting if you start researching history and the history of how it has evolved. And for example, the Pope and the priests, they have the aspergillum, and they have holy water, which I used to believe, or I know, is an antifungal, but I believe now they've either lost touch with it, or who knows what happened to these teachings. And I tell you in my last video that the aspergillum that the Catholic priest, the Pope, uses to spray holy water, it was basically named by a Jesuit priest who goes, man, that looks like an aspergillus spore under a microscope. So a Jesuit priest actually named it, like in the 1700s, the aspergillum, and they named it after fungi, after aspergillus, after a fungi that is killing millions of people, I feel. It's the cause of aspergilloma. It's the cause, it causes cancer. This is verified by FACT CDC. It's on all the different websites. So understand that these fungi, aspergillus, Stachybotrys, etc., they cause cancer, they cause death, they cause all types of asthma and allergies and different types of stomach ailments. So remember that's when I talk about these lemurs and these unclean spirits, etc., I'm talking about these parasitic fungi that are causing all these different diseases, and that a lot of people that are suffering right now, even that are listening to this video, they don't know why. You know, they're getting all these exotic different names of diseases. They don't know how it started, what caused it, but they got a name. And people are coming to me and they're going, Mo, I got this disease, I got Lyme, Morgellons, I got this, I got that. I go, just don't even think about all those different things. Just think like you got parasitic fungi or parasites, and start treating your home, start treating your house, and start living your life with set rituals and rites that you could use and utilize that will make your life better, that will make you stronger, and that will help cure you from these parasites. I was just walking by my house seeing if I could see my family. I take about an hour walk up and down these hills, and then I go to the gym actually. Part of my rites and my rituals, as I mention every day that I can, try about 5 days a week to do this. And I do it so I could maintain control of my body and stay strong. I sit a lot, and I feel that we got to get outside. We got to get, sun. I am getting sun even though I have my sunglasses on. I take them off after I work out on my way home. I'll take off my shirt a lot as well. I don't take it off as much on my video. But I am getting rays from the planets right now. I'm getting rays from the sun. It's coming through my skin, not so much my eyes, but you do get the sun, the hydrogen. And remember that when they say as above, so below, we're made of the exact same chemicals that are on the as above. So the sun, the planets, Jupiter, etc., they all have different chemicals that are in our bodies. Right? So when we're outside, we're actually getting those chemicals. We're actually being restored by, I believe, by the planets, not only the sun, but also the planets. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I believe the ancients had talked about that, and that'll be a future video. So I'm gonna wrap it up today. I think that's pretty much it. Thank you for tuning in. I'm gonna have an article coming out and some other videos where I'm gonna explain it more in regards to these lemurs and these spirits and how it played a part in the festival of Lemuria, okay? And also the Pontifex Maximus and the Vestal Virgins, and how sex and everything played a big part in this religion, and how we lost touch with these sacred rites and with these religions of the past. And I think it's important that, you know, if you want to stay clean, that you have safe sex and you don't have sex with just anybody, because you could be passing these parasites, these fungi, and much more than you could imagine, and they become attached to you. And I believe that these parasites, they're intelligent, right? I call them demonic. Remember, demon is from the Greek word daemon. It means wise, it means intelligent. Okay, so when I use that word, that's what I'm talking about, you know. And when I was living in that world, so you guys know, it was some of my most unhappy, hellish times of my life. I feel like I'm still suffering from that time where I lived like an evil demon, you could say, right? Where I did things that I wouldn't do today. And that person I'm not proud of, but it's part of who I am today. You know, that's when I believe I was walking the left-hand path, the satanic path, and I didn't know it, because I believe everybody in the United States, because of our media, because of the lack of religion or being taught this philosophy in school, the way we're taught, we actually are guided secretly on the left-hand path. And our culture, our cult, feeds into this parasite mentality. And I believe it's hard if you don't have the good role models, the good family, the good father, the good mother, a strong, you know, family life. It's easy to go down that path of destruction, of despair, into nihilism, into Satanism. Even though you don't say you are, I believe a lot of people are Satanists, even though they're not officially members of the Church of Satan, Inc., right? They are Satanists because of the way they live. They may be in your church, they may be your family, they may be you, I don't know. But if you choose to live like that, that's your choice. A Satanist is who lives by the carnal flesh, right? A Satanist doesn't believe in God, right? Just so you guys know, when I talk like that, you know, that could be you and that's your choice, but I'm just explaining what a Satanist is right now and what they believe. And again, I've studied this. I don't speak on things that I don't know. Okay, so when I say a Satanist is someone who does not believe in God. They're agnostic. Okay, I'm a Gnostic. Gnosis, I believe in God, I'm with God. So if you're a Gnostic, you believe in God. If you don't, you're an agnostic, you're a Satanist, or you're in a different time. So whatever your God is, you gotta try to define that. So remember that. So if you're a Satanist or not, or you don't believe in God, you believe in the Satanist type of theology. They believe in might is right, okay? They don't believe in anything that I'm talking about as spirituality, spirits. They don't believe in the afterlife. People want to talk, no big deal. I used to always, if someone said anything to me, I'd say, come on, let's go. Let's flip them off, but I don't do that anymore. You never know who has a gun or a knife, and I don't want to get in a brawl. I just want to hang out. In any event, so remember that Satanists don't believe in God. Satanists are agnostic. Satanists believe in carnal, pleasing the carnal flesh, living here, living inverted, right? So, you know, they take the pentagram of the philosophers, which it's not an evil symbol. Some people think it's evil, but it's not. So the pentagram upright, that's a symbol that's been honored. It's called the Gnostic pentagram, the Masonic pentagram. And then we have, of course, the Seal of Solomon. It's a derivative of that. And what the Satanists do is they invert everything, right? Okay, these aren't, when you do this, this isn't Moses' horns. It's a completely different theology and everything. So don't think, you know, the horns and everything have to do with Moses or anything. Sorry, guys. I just walked up this damn hill and I'm tired. So I don't know how many people are on the cast right now. I'm gonna get some water, if you don't mind. So I've interviewed, so you guys know, Satanists on the Gnostic Warrior. There's a lot of videos that you could watch too. The Church of Satan, they're on YouTube, and they'll tell you what they believe, and then you'll see that a lot of your friends and people you know, and maybe even you, believe in kind of the same things that they do. And again, that's the left-hand path considered. That's the Satanist path, the path of the flesh. You kind of do what you want to do. And the people that walk the right-hand path are more on the, I'd say, towards God and serving the light, etc. So sorry guys, I've been walking for a while. Got to catch my breath, get a little water. I just got poked. Alright guys, sorry about that. And I wish I could see your comments more. Here on YouTube, you really can't interact, especially like this. When I was on Facebook, I basically got banned from Facebook Live for some different things. I allegedly will get it back here in the next week or so. But I'm able to see the comments. Here I can't even really see the comments and respond to you guys or stuff. And sometimes your comments really help me, and I can get on a different track based on your comments, and I could start kind of parlaying into it. And a lot of you guys are super smart and actually bring a lot to the conversation. And what's weird with YouTube is a lot of the comments get deleted from the live video. So a lot of the things that you guys say, I won't be able to see anything after I'm done, or I don't know what the heck's going on. But that doesn't happen on Facebook. So I apologize for that. A lot of you guys are also looking for information on how to keep yourselves in your home safe from mold, right? I'm gonna do a series of videos. It's such a serious subject to me that I can't really just talk about it. I wanna, if I'm gonna do a video about the subject, I wanna make sure that I do it right, and I do some good produced videos. It's not me just walking around out of breath. All right, remember, these videos, I don't do them to make money or to bring attention to me. I just do them to educate, and it helps me with my head and then get these stories out. And I think it's fascinating. I'm getting a lot of good feedback from you guys, so thank you so much for the support. If you want to find more of my work, go to GnosticWarrior.com. If you want to become a member of the Order of the Gnostics, go to GnosticWarrior.com/members. And if you'd like to donate, same thing, GnosticWarrior.com and then /donate. So that's how you could help support me and my work. I hope to do this one day where I don't have to work. I have a mold company called Mold Safe Solutions. Again, I'm not doing this just to get business, but if you guys ever need in Southern California a mold inspection or mold remediation, I actually also do consultations. Keep in mind, guys, my consultations are not really that cheap, because what I'm going to give you is something that's going to change your life, okay? So if some of you guys are sick or you need help, and maybe you're in a different state, I am doing consultations. They're over a 3-month period. And if you want, you could email me. You could email me mo@gnosticwarrior.com or mo@moldsafesolutions.com, and we could talk about it. I'll give you like a free advice, and I'll talk to you on the phone and see if we're a good fit, because I'm not gonna just take anybody on as far as consultations go. And again, my hopes are, I have another job that I do, and I'm driving a lot. It's unhealthy, it's stressful, and I'm hoping that I could do, of course, my mold business full time. you know, and to earn my money and earn it right and really help people. But these videos, you know, I'm doing for free. You know, out of my heart, I have a lot of articles that I've written to help people. So remember, I'm donating a lot of my time to educate people, to talk to people, and then I'm hoping in the future, you know, if there's anybody out there that needs help and they want specialized help, kind of like what I'm talking about. I helped heal my son, I helped cure him. He's sick right now, and my whole family got sick, and I basically cured them all within 3 days. Okay, bad sore throat, everything, something that would have lasted weeks before. I'm now able to nip in the butt with my protocols and what I'm doing now within a few days. So it's pretty cool, and then I'm able to actually stay pretty healthy right now, where I didn't get sick, and I used to get sick before. So I'm going on right now about 15 months, 16 months without getting any type of illness, nothing, you know, so been doing great. And I know a lot of it deals with what I'm doing and how I've learned to beat these lemurs with my rites and my rituals, right? I just kind of adapted new ones to this modern world that we live in now today. So, as I had said in previous videos, there's evidence that these fungi, these parasitic fungi, cause people to go mad, right? Dementia, all different types of diseases. Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. I know a lot of people have stomach issues. So remember to think fungus, right? And remember, at the beginning of this video, I talk about the CDC, and I'm gonna leave you with a little conspiracy here before I wrap up the show. So, I'm gonna tell you about some visions I had. And I know some people go, oh, Mo's getting weird, and some people will think, oh, Mo's crazy. But I had this vision. And what's weird is it's coming true right now. But I've had various visions through meditations and through sleeping that our world was basically taken over by this virus. And that it basically took over much of humanity. And this virus ended up being what divided the human race into two camps. And it's what I've been talking about right now, guys. And I think it's something that we might be seeing in our lifetimes, and I feel like I've lived this life before for some reason. It's just weird. But in anyways, I'm starting to see this reality come to fruition, right? I tell you about a story about how one time I was sleeping. I don't know, my wife told me about a vision she had, and where there was the police force were federal, that they basically managed everything. So the cops that we know today, right here, like I'm in San Diego with San Diego police or whatever, or the sheriff, they're gonna be all federal officers in the near future. Mark my words, guys. You guys are gonna go, Mo's crazy. But anyways, it's coming true. So these federal officers are gonna manage this massive plague that we got going on right now. So what I believe is happening right now is that the powers that be know exactly what I'm talking about. This has been known for a long time, but they didn't have everything ready. They had to mobilize certain things to implement them in order to activate them when needed be. Because you got to remember, the American population, especially here in the United States, is massive. You can't just, in one day make a decision. You got to do it over time. So I believe what's happening now is the CDC is making people aware of this parasitic fungi and these different viruses that could be submitted and infected via your semen in different routes. All right, and this diseases and everything that they're talking about are going to become more and more evident as time goes along, and that eventually they're going to announce, and it's going to bring in, again, this is kind of a little conspiracy, okay guys, it's a theory. I've had a little visions, and then my wife, so we kind of put it together. But keep in mind, guys, I work in the mold business, right? And I go to a guy's house one day, and he's a Marine here in San Diego. Just share this story. This is how synchronicities work. So this is about 2 weeks ago, and I go to this house, right? And it's a Marine, and he's talking to him, etc. And I asked him his email address, and he has a Homeland Security email address. Pretty interesting, right? I go, interesting. And I go, what do you do for a living? He gave me the Homeland Security. He goes, oh, I'm a Marine. And he goes, we're training the police to be federalized, militarized. Said it just like that, guys. And I go, I'm a conspiracy type of guy. Everybody loves a good conspiracy, especially us Gnostics, right? And I go, what do you mean? Militarizing the police? He goes, yeah. He goes, you're not going to have civil police, civilian police anymore. They're all going to be like us. And I go, what do you mean like us? They're going to be militarized. And so basically, you see that cop right there? That is going to be in the future military in your town. And they're doing it right now. And my wife had a vision of this years ago. Okay, so you're gonna say Mo's crazy. I don't know, but I don't want to get hit by a car right now. So that's a little conspiracy for you, right? All kinds of different things going down in the Catholic Church with the first Jesuit Pope Francis, right? I think lots of stuff's gonna go down, guys, right now like never before in the history of the world. And it's gonna be amazing. And you got Alex Jones talking about the Satanists, right? The Satanists are the people that feed the parasite. They invert people, right? That's all what it's about, guys. What I'm talking about, feeding the lemurs, the lemuria, right? I talk about how in magical ceremonies, especially in black magic, they use these spiritus. They use these fungi, guys. Yes, they do. The lemurs. And there's different things that I don't really ever want to get into in regards to that. So anyways, peace be with you guys. I'm going to work out here at my moldy gym. Anyways, I don't get scared of them anymore. I don't run from them. I know how to protect myself, and then also to protect my family and my home from these spiritus, from these molds, from these fungi. So anyways, take care, guys. Peace be with you. I'll talk to you later.